you. Close your eyes. Your fingers interlaced and placed in front. Your back erect. Your head and neck erect. Your physical body is kept loose, relaxed. Mind is free of thoughts. Your breathing normal. Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu mavit vishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Let us chant the Dhyana Shlokas. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Puranamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Mritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amba tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavad Dveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullaravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishma Drona Tatha Jayatradhajala Gandharani Lotpala Shalya Grahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Gora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandhavai Rananadi Kaivartaka Keshava Parasharyavachas Sarojamamalam Geetarthagandhodkhatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatham Sambodhana Bodhitam Lokeshajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakrammo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasam Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyam Tam Navidussura Suraganam Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So far we have discussed the role of faith. In the previous session, couple of sessions, we discussed not to criticize others or find faults. In this session, we will discuss about I know attitude. So what do you mean by I know attitude? There are three types of students. Whether it is a secular study or a sacred study. Whatever be the field of study, three types of students are the first type of student comes to class to test the master what the master knows. They don't learn anything with that attitude. Many times the student would have prepared themselves. Nowadays, with so much of advancement in technology, information available on the internet. So the student goes into the net, get a lot of information, come to the class to reveal what they know. That type of student also doesn't learn. So the first type test the master, whether the master knows or not. The second type come to class to reveal what they know. Both these students with these attitude, they don't learn anything. They don't retain anything. Then who learns? So they are the one with this attitude, I know. So what is the right attitude to learn any knowledge? The student comes to class with that attitude, that bhavana, I do not know. So when the individual has this attitude, when the student has this attitude, I do not know, They want to take from the master, receive from the master. The fundamental principle of education is knowledge is taken, not given. So when this individual has this attitude to take, how to take that knowledge? Prashnena. Not with that attitude to question the master, that genuine attitude to learn, to know. With that bhavana of surrender, I do not know. 3 words, I do not know. If you see the mannerisms of, the Westerner, they have this peculiar mannerism when they are talking to someone. They have this mannerism. They keep uttering the word, you know, you know, you know, as though they don't know anything. They may be an authority in the subject, but that mannerism, that spirit is what is required to learn any subject. When a person is not keeping well, you go to a doctor, you surrender to the doctor, not to the physical person, the personality. To that knowledge the person possesses. It is not physical prostration. So when I say surrender here, surrender to that knowledge. I am ignorant in that field of medicine, therefore you surrender to the person who is knowledgeable in that field. I am ignorant in the field of automobile engineering. When my vehicle breaks down, I take my vehicle to a mechanic. I surrender to that person who is knowledgeable in that field. I may question the facts. Why should I replace this particular part? What is the necessity? But when the other person who is knowledgeable, you have faith in that person, for the heck of asking the question, you don't ask that question. Genuinely, you want to clarify the facts. Not to test him, not to reveal what you know. That genuine attitude to learn, that element called surrender there. Like how a person has that attitude, I do not know, in any sphere of activity, that same attitude has to be there even when a person is gaining spiritual knowledge. Please get back to the first 2 topics. Role of faith. So we're discussing, confining ourselves to the spiritual path now. Having decided which path to take in spirituality, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, or Jnana Yoga. Having decided that, yes, I am more suitable for Jnanam, for intake of knowledge. What is the reason behind it? Because I am more a rational person, a thinking type of person. Doesn't accept anything on hearsay. Of course, that element of surrender and karma, devotion and action are equally proportioned there. When I say equally proportioned, to that extent a person is following the path of jnanam, knowledge, which is predominant here. To that extent, bhakti, devotion and action, karma, are less proportioned. Friends, in any individual, karma, bhakti and jnanam are equivalent to 100%. If a person, whom do we say a person is a jnana yogi, following the path of knowledge, that individual who is predominantly a thinking type of person, a rational person, logical minded person, they choose the path of knowledge, which is predominant here. Then that bhakti and action, devotion and action, the proportion is equivalent to 100%. So jnanam is more in percentage, bhakti and action are less in proportion. When a person is more devotional, emotional, then that emotional aspect of the person is more in percentage. Intake of knowledge and karma are less in proportion, again which is equal to 100%. When we say a person is a karma yogi, a person is balanced in jnanam and bhakti, karma action is more, then intake of knowledge is less in proportion. Of course, action and bhakti are not divorced each other. Jnanam and bhakti are not divorced each other. It's all in the permutation and combination. And this is what we talk about, that a person is predominantly, taken up to the path of knowledge, bhakti, devotion, and action, karma. So based on one's inner constitution, what is the proportion of the mind and the intellect, the inner personality? Based on that, a person chooses the path of knowledge, the path of devotion, and the path of action. Not because it is convenient for a person to take up these three paths. And that's where the person makes a mistake. So having decided which path to take, then that faith in that unprostituted determination, devotion in pursuing that particular path is 100%. There is no doubt later on. Then the person does not criticize any of the master there, the disciples there, the path which is taken itself. So as we discussed in the previous session, that a person is in a particular hermitage or a modern gurukula or wherever they are, there are human beings living along with them. They don't find any fault, do not criticize, accept others as they are, not the way how we want them to be. Then, since there are persons, human beings from different walks of life with different backgrounds are present in one field of activity, then the problem is, I am correct. My path of knowledge, that person who is taken up the path of knowledge says that path alone will give salvation, liberation. And that person who was taken up to the path of devotion says the path of devotion alone can give moksha. And the person who was taken up to karma yoga says the path of karma alone can give moksha. And this is the problem. It is like three different compartments. No doubt the person has risen from the materialistic, sensualistic world and now is, embarked themselves into the path of spirituality, and with great pain, with great sacrifice, a person has risen from, material world, but now stuck to that path. Jnanam is great, bhakti is great, karma is great. That alone can give liberation. The problem arises in comparing each other. comparing the paths. Friends, these three paths, the path of knowledge, the path of devotion, and the path of action, are like three different highways, independent paths. All three are, great by themselves. No need to compare. That person who is suitable for jnanam takes to that path. That person who is suitable for bhakti takes to that particular path of devotion. And the person who is suitable for karma, action, takes that particular path. Though the person has taken up to jnanam, bhakti or karma, though it is three different highways, but at a later stage in the spiritual journey, these three highways join together. It is like three different highways coming and converging at a point, and that point is what is called as uparati, mental withdrawal from the world. Though the initial path of spiritual journey is different, having reduced the bulk of the desires, the person meet at later stage of spiritual journey, and from there on it is a single file approach right up to the destination, self-realization. So karma, bhakti and jnanam lead to uparati. Then when the person continue to perform the spiritual sadhana, reduce still the bulk of the desires. Most of the desires are reduced in karma, bhakti and jnanam itself. And at the later stage at uparati, the person practice spiritual sadhana and reach dharana, concentration. So what concentration a chess player has, what concentration a tennis player has, what concentration a cricketer has, a golfer has, or concentration a person has in business or politics or music or whatever, is only general concentration. That person who has taken up to archery or shooting, the sport, archery or shooting or chess, is able to focus on that particular sport with utmost concentration. But if the mind is disturbed because of various other factors, they are not able to shoot the target, the bullseye. Their player makes a silly mistake, a silly blunder. That person who is able to concentrate in practice, in nets, why he or she is not able to perform the same way when the actual match is going on? We've got to analyze that. So coming back to this point here, that dharana is concentration. Then when a person continue to practice spiritual sadhana, then a person reach the stage called dhyana, meditation. In other words, it is concentrated concentration. So meditation in this context can be defined as single pointed focus on a chosen thought to the exclusion of other thoughts under the supervision of an intellect. If the last clause is removed under the supervision of the intellect, then most of us have that concentration. A boy meets a girl meets a boy. Morning, noon or night, the person has concentration on the boy or girl. Is that equivalent to dhyanam here? Please see the definition here. Meditation is defined as single-pointed focus on a chosen thought. It is the mind which is focusing on a chosen thought, chosen by the intellect. The mind is not choosing a thought by itself. It is the higher element, intellect, giving a point of focus to the mind which is grosser than the intellect, and it is the mind which is focusing on a thought under the supervision of the intellect. If the intellect is not there, then the mind by itself is focusing on a thought. It may be for a longer period of time. It is not equivalent to concentration. We can say it is trance. It is trance is not a greater height in spirituality. It is an impediment to spiritual growth. I repeat, those who are able to focus on a single thought without the supervision of the intellect, they have not attained any spiritual growth. They will not know that the mind has slipped. So that particular clause under the supervision of the intellect is very important. So meditation is an effort involved here. What is the effort? The intellect governing the mind. Though a person has taken so much time and effort, sadhana is spent in order to perform karma, bhakti and jnanam, reaching the state of uparati, dharana and dhyanam. Yes, no doubt the mind is well disciplined. Even a well disciplined mind can slip. So the effort involved here is intellect supervising, policing the disciplined mind. In the initial stage of spiritual journey, the mind is not disciplined. So the slip is quite often. Branching from one thought to another thought is very frequent. But in the later stage of spiritual journey, the branching of thought doesn't take place because the thoughts are less in number. But that slip, the mind is not able to focus on a thought. And that is what the intellect does there. So coming back to this topic here, I know attitude. There is an outstanding poem by John Godfrey Saxe, who writes this poem called The Six Blind Men of Hindustan, or the six blind men and an elephant. The six blind men and the elephant here is a poem which is talking about six blind men. There's a pun on the word there. Blind men went to see an elephant. How can blind men see elephant? They can't see anything. Why the author has chosen here an elephant? That is another, important point to be noted here. They could have gone and see, to meet or to see a smaller creature. Why that elephant, which is big, huge, in this context, present everywhere. It's not an elephant is present everywhere. In this context, we can interpret it as something which is present a large, proportioned. So the six blind men went to see what an elephant is, each one touching a part of the elephant, and they claim that elephant is like a wall. You will see that. Elephant is like a spear. Elephant is like a rope, like a snake, like a fan, etc. So the poem is talking about six people touching 6 parts of the elephant, and the point to be noted here is each one not just claim themselves, the elephant is like this, this. The elephant, I am mightily clear. I am 100% certain. I know for sure elephant is this. That part is what is very important to be noted here. So, number one, that huge elephant. And number two, they touch the part as a whole, thinking that it is what it is, and claiming to be, I am certain. There cannot be anything else other than this. So this is what the whole, discussion here, I know attitude. So the first one touched the side of the, elephant, and he claimed, whether it's man or woman, whoever they are, but in this context, 6 blind men. So, claim the elephant is like a wall. And this person says, I am very clear, I am mightily clear. The elephant is like a wall. Yeah, what are you talking? The second one says, no. He touched the the tusk, and he said it is like a spear. It is very smooth and sharp. So that same person, because I don't know, I really do not know, they would have hunted or something like that. So they have prior knowledge of what that spear is. They have prior knowledge of what that wall is. Prior knowledge, though they are blind, they have been living in some hut or some place or whatever. So they would have felt what that wall is. And now they are touching the side of the elephant. Therefore, what knowledge the person already possessed, he is comparing that knowledge which he already possesses with that knowledge the experience that he is going through right now. What he is going through right now is unknown to him, but he is comparing with that knowledge what already he knows. Therefore, he is saying, this, what I am touching here is like the wall. What I am touching here is like a spear. There is no element of doubt. Third one, touching the trunk. Okay, and then he says it is like a snake. Perhaps you would have been a snake charmer or whatever. He would have touched a snake, felt what a snake is. The trunk is also moving, the snake is also moving. Certain. Yes, the elephant is like a snake. The fourth touched the knee, and he would have rested under a big a tree. So he is now comparing with what knowledge he already has. Now he is touched the knee here, the huge one, the trunk. Trunk means like a tree trunk here, and now he is comparing that with a tree. Then the fifth caught hold of the big ear. Those days, we don't have the ceiling fan or whatever. Then it is like one big, cloth-like thing which is moving, which is tied to a rope. So you pull the rope, then the big cloth there moves. So this fellow would have had that experience, and therefore he is comparing. It's like a fan. The last one touched the tail and compared it to a rope, a thin rope. Each one touching a part of that elephant and coming to a firm conclusion that elephant is a wall, a spear, a rope, a snake, a tree, etc. They have decided that by feeling the part, they have concluded what that whole elephant is. Friends, if you analyze, path of jnanam, path of bhakti, the path of karma. So this karma, bhakti and jnanam is only one part of what that whole spiritual sadhana is. So out of ignorance, how these blind men, feeling that a part of that elephant and coming to a firm conclusion that elephant is this. Same way, that person out of ignorance who is following the path of jnanam is coming to a conclusion that jnanam alone can give moksha. Out of ignorance, that person who has chosen to the path of bhakti is coming to a firm conclusion that bhakti alone can give moksha. That person out of ignorance following the path of karma is come to a conclusion that karma alone can give moksha. It's only a part of it. It's only a part of the spiritual sadhana. So why the elephant here? The elephant is being a big animal in that way that Brahman is present everywhere. It's a mighty creature. Elephant is huge. So I purposely said that, that Brahman, though it is present everywhere, out of ignorance, with that limited knowledge, we come to a conclusion that karma, bhakti, and jnanam by itself is what that ultimate sadhana is. Not able to see beyond one's nose. And therefore we find, that person who was chosen up to the path of jnanam, fighting with the person who was taken up to the bhakti, is again, fighting with the person who was taken up to karma. Fighting in the sense, unnecessary ego clash. Not fist fight going on here. That our path alone is what the ultimate sadhana is. That's why you will find in Bhajagovindam, Shankara, who was the, pioneer in Shaivite path, beautifully talks about that the all-pervading Vishnu, because even during that time, the followers of Vishnu are fighting with, having differences of opinion with the followers of Shiva. Therefore, to bring in that point, instill that knowledge that both Shiva and Vishnu are one, obviously the followers are not having that understanding. In the Bhajagovindam, Shankara talks about that all-pervading Vishnu. Because followers are at loggerheads. So, in this context here, that all of them were partly correct, but totally wrong, absolutely wrong. But though they, came to a conclusion that yes, we are 100% certain, there is no doubt at all. Same way, when we are taking any decision in the material path or the spiritual path, the person does not have any doubt at all. I am 100% clear, the decision what I have taken. So that person who has this, surrender, that bhavana, that devotion, in areas of ignorance, surrender to the superior intellect, consult. Yes, that gross intellect is not able to decide. With the help of a superior intellect, you are able to take that advice. Ultimately, the individual has to take the decision. Even in that area of ignorance there, the decision making there, a person is able to seek that advice. No, this is what my line of thinking is. Am I right or wrong? That approach in life. So what happens is, in this context of I know attitude, since the person is having that element of surrender, the mind is able to open up. See, it is the intellect which is taking the decision in life. So if that intellect is of that understanding, I know, then the mind is shut, the mind is closed. The decision making may be perhaps wrong. So when the mind opens up like a parachute, then you are able to blossom as a person. You're able to reach greater heights in not only in the material world but in the spiritual world also. This is how, this is what is meant as let the mind feel what the intellect understands. Let the intellect understand what the mind feels. The contrary is also equally true. So these are the first three topics here. That is the role of devotion, or what do you call, the three paths. That is karma, bhakti and jnanam. So when a person has chosen up to path of jnanam, has the element of surrender and he does service. When the person has taken up the path of bhakti, devotion, predominantly the person takes up to devotion, the element of thinking is there, and obviously action. When the person has taken up to karma yoga, then the thinking and devotion go hand in hand. So, role of faith, not to criticize others or find faults. I know attitude. When a person has this surrender, then the person falls in the third category. I do not know. And that's why you will find in